And welcome to the next edition of Atomic Ergo. As always, I'm your host, Earl Ray Neal, and I am incredibly excited to have Beau Sitzmann with us today. Beau is the CEO of Evolutionary Tools. They have this super cool tool that we're going to talk about today. You've got to go to evolutionarytoolinc.com and check this thing out. It's called the Backup. How are you doing, Beau? How's it going today?
Oh, I'm fantastic. I've been looking forward to this for a while now.
So you're the CEO of Evolutionary Tools Inc. You're the founder and inventor of 10 different patents. And I was teasing folks before the broadcast. It's exactly 10 more than your host has. The founder and inventor, Sitzmann Tools LLC. Been a project manager, owner, Westside Interiors, Sun Spaces, which sounds like a wonderful family-owned construction
Yeah,
company for quite some about 10 years, looks like.
yeah.
And then, like I said, I mentioned that backup just earlier. He's got 20 years as a licensed general contractor. And like I said, holds just a ton of patents, and hopefully we'll get to talk about some of those today. So I guess where I want to start with you, Beau, who or what inspired your transition from an obviously successful building career to this ergonomic tech entrepreneurship?
Well, thank you for asking that. I thought quite a bit about that, and I think it's really just a perfect storm of situations that came together at the right time. I think it starts with having a foundation of hard work. I come from a very long line of successful farmers out of Iowa. Um, my dad was the only son of six children, and he was set to inherit, a couple $100,000 worth of farmland, and that would have probably been my life story even today. But my dad had a sense of entrepreneurship, of wanting to do something great with his life, and that in his vision that didn't include taking over the family farm. Um, Funny, I go back now and maybe we should have stayed because I see how some of these farmers are living now, and they're doing very well. But it set me, I saw a lot of things from a very young age that, we moved from Iowa when I was two to Anchorage, Alaska. And he was a general contractor up there. And I was there for 5 years, moved to California, and then here to the Seattle area in 91. And that's really where he started his construction company that still exists to this day. It's called Sun Spaces. So it's that foundation of hard work. Even as a kid, I remember having multiple paper routes. You know, but then I think what it did is it transitioned, and I'll jump forward to one person individual in particular. His name was Paul Akers. I'll jump forward in the story about 10 or 15 years, but after I had developed this product to a certain point, um, the biggest question was well, who you gonna sell it to? Who's gonna bring it to market? And it was like it was not even really an option that you're gonna actually do it yourself. And so at that point, I found the biggest, most successful guy in the state of Washington who had a tool company that he had invented a tool, and he at that point had about 30 products that he was selling, and I visited him, and I remember giving him the whole spiel, and his answer to me was tile layers. Tile layers are who are going to use this product. And he said, but you shouldn't be looking at anybody else. He said, I'll market it as this. I'll give you 5% to walk away. And there's a lot in between that and the rest of the story, but there's a foundation of having hard work. And then there was the decision at that point, which was I didn't necessarily agree with the guy. I thought he was very successful, but he was not a worker. He he had never worked the way I had worked. He had never put in that kind of work, that kind of pain, experienced and had to go through the levels of pain that I know I had gone through, to only tell me that it was only going to be in this and this. And it was at that moment when I left that meeting that I kind of took a deep breath, and I realized it had to be me. I knew that at that moment it had to be me, because there was nobody else that would be willing to do what it was going to take the product from where I had it in his hands at that point to wherever it was going to need to go to be successful. And I didn't know what that end looked like. It could have been 5 years from then, it could have been 10 years from then. I just knew that I would not stop, I would not cut corners. And I knew construction better than anybody else. And I knew what it was like to experience pain. And then, therefore, I could speak to people on that pain, and I knew I'd be able to relate. So it's a roundabout answer there, Earl Ray.
Well, no,
Sorry about
that's a great, so
that.
isn't it odd where your inspiration comes from? I mean, your
Yeah.
inspiration actually comes from somebody that you sat down with and you came away from the meeting and go, you know what, I don't agree with that guy.
Yeah.
I mean, and so you just took the ball and ran. You sound it's almost like no wonder you and our chief visionary officer Steve Davis get along so well, because that is exactly what Ergonauts is. I remember the first day that Steve started talking to me about Ergonauts, and I was like, well, what's an Ergonaut? And then here you go, and here we
Yeah.
are. So
Yeah.
so that original vision when you founded the company, how has that evolved to where we are now?
Well, it's evolved greatly. I would look at it as the initial phase, looking at it, and I'll tell you the origin story really quickly is I found myself, I would jump back and say that I came from a place, I was not, I was wrestling captain senior year in high school. Life was good, you know, um, I had a blast in high school, but maybe that's because I knew that that was going to be the end of my formal education. I knew it, and I had known it for a very long time. I never looked at the trades as something that was less than, because I had been around successful builders, people that were doers, people that were willing to move across the country to put themselves and their family in a better position, in a better market, where yada yada. So that's kind of where I came from, and I sorry, I kind of get thrown off track there with your last question there, Earl Ray.
No, we're talking about, sort of the difference in the vision of when you founded the company, sort of, where you are now with it. I guess my question is, backup it really is an amazing product. So where do you want to take it? Where are you right now? Where do you want to take it?
Well, I would say that the defining line for me was number one, I created the tool. And getting back to what I was saying earlier is that I've always had the attitude that construction was never less than anything. Therefore, I always expected great things out of a construction career. The problem came about 14 years into that, when the rubber meets the road and you're 14 years into a grueling career. And, I found myself at 34 years old, um, had just had my fourth daughter in 4 years, um, working in a family construction company, and specializing in finish work. Primarily at that time, we were doing a tremendous amount of tile. So, you know, I found myself one evening, Christmas Eve. It was like a 14-hour day. I remember they did not want me in their house because it was Christmas Eve, but I had to finish the job. I remember looking down at my arm and thinking to myself, I can't feel it anymore. I can't feel the wrist. I can't feel the fingertips, and yet I'm still going with the one hand. And it was like a lightning bolt hit me. And I remember thinking, well, if I can't feel it anyway, why can't I have a third arm that comes out of my sternum? That way I would at least get the use of the second hand, but what it would do for my back and knees would be transformative. So I built my first one, and I got it out. I actually built five and got it out to a core group of users, guys that I've known for years, um, that I trusted would give me real information back. And so of that core group of five, then you get your two real diehard users. And one, his name was Tali Fanau. He worked for Kiewit Construction. He was a concrete finisher. And I kind of used him as like my muse, essentially. I was honored that he found the device to be as amazing as me, but I wanted to make it perfect for what he did. So I spent at least a year and a half with him, made around 7 or 8 changes with him. And this continued on, one muse to the next, essentially, um, until the crowds just started getting bigger. Essentially, the users just started getting bigger until I got to a point where I needed to have it manufactured. And then once I had all that manufactured, I took it to Boeing, and I'm going to bounce back to your original, which is where did I start and where am I at now? So it took 8 years, almost 9 years, from the time when I built that first version to the time that I had a finished product, patented product. And I did my very first show about 2.5 years ago. Tremendous amount of evolution. I could show them to you. There's 18 different versions to get there. But then at that first show, Boeing saw it. Boeing saw it and they invited me in. And that, to answer your question, was the largest single changing point for me because I had a single product meant for primarily male use, very narrow minded, and it had one arm for one working position, which was hands and knees work. Working with Boeing opened up my eyes to a level that I didn't think was possible. Essentially, they started making requests, tremendous amount of requests. Number one, they said if you're going to sell to us, it has to fit 95% of our population, and that includes females, males of all shapes and sizes. So for about a year and a half, I spent working hand in hand with the engineers and Boeing, critiquing every single aspect of the device, making it viable for their environments. And I would say in the last 2 years, I went from having one arm and one single product to now having 5 different arms that service 4 different working positions that all work within the system. And
So,
I
folks, when you
have
go and
them to
visit,
thank for
when
that.
you, I didn't mean to interrupt. I'm so sorry, but I did want to say that
No, please.
one of
No,
the things that really struck me about the website, and then when you're going to check this out, and folks, when you go to visit the website, you will see some videos. Do yourself a favor and click on those videos because Beau spends an enormous amount of time literally walking you through the right fit, the wrong fit, and then if you have the wrong fit, what do you do to fix that fit? And so I really see how you have manufactured a product that is designed to fit somebody. You know, I'm a fairly big guy, weigh about 220 and 6 foot tall. My
yeah,
dad is,
yeah,
5'9" and weighs 165 pounds. But this is something that, we could both use. And it's just fascinating how much time and energy you expend, and that comes from your hard work background in explaining how to get the proper
thank you.
use out of this.
Yeah,
So it's fascinating. So
thank you.
where
Yeah, I
where do
feel
you
like it's
see
all
where do you
it's
see the most exciting innovations coming from the ergonomic technological area now? You got something on the burner you want to tell us about, or where do you see your company going?
well, I've always got a lot of things. I've got a lot of things on the burner. I've got currently I'm working on 3 new attachments. I won't share them right now, but they're born of requests
Mhm.
straight from aerospace partners, and they are additional attachments essentially that will enable the device to be worn while standing up, essentially, and it will aid in that way. So there's always there's always more that I'm working on right now. I have we've already produced it and we have sent it. but we have a partner that we're working with in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, that it's a lot of confidential stuff here. I got to be careful what I say, but
Sure. Yeah,
they
no problem.
essentially build tanks and armored transport vehicles, and they're using the backup for specifically welding. And so their only concern with that is the high heat temperatures.
Mhm.
So we recently completed a prototype for them that is a flame retardant sleeve that they're able to put over the entire arm and then get in those tight environments. I can go on and on. Things such as
Well, don't say anything that's going to get us in the federal penitentiary, whatever you do.
no, 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 no. But once you have the basic core, which is the core now has been completed and it's been, finalized for a few years now. Once you have that core base, for me, it's the backup. Then it becomes about specialized attachments, such as I created a foot that instead of a rubber foot, it's a foot that's shaped like a C channel on a universal joint, so that workers in railways can drop that foot right over that track and then be confident that they are not going to slip either way. There's 4 or 5 of those projects right now that are they're going, and I'll probably keep it right there. But other exciting companies, I see 3D printing. I've got full access, and I'm just so honored that, Boeing thinks enough about, what I'm willing to do for them that they allow me full access to pretty much all of their facilities. Last week, I was in Charleston, South Carolina, visiting another facility. Um, but what they're doing with what they call their safety dojo program is cutting edge. And you asked me, specifically about some of the cutting edge stuff. They're using 3D printing in a way that is mind blowing. This the safety dojo. So 3D printing is definitely on the forefront. Companies like Digity, who has taken 3D printing to another level. They've created an exoskeleton for your hands that essentially reduces vibration, increases grip strength. That's really where it's at. Rapid prototyping, rapid being able to move through concepts. Because as we all know, your concept is just that. It needs to be broken in the field multiple times until it just gets better and better and better and better. So
Well, I can tell you, I was just so excited to be able to talk to you and hear more about the backup because I got on the website and I looked at it. So I am I heard what you said about formal education. So you and I, in a
yeah,
sense, are exactly the opposite.
yes,
I have an extensive formal education, but
yes,
if I go to the thermostat and I turn it
sure.
and it doesn't get colder or it doesn't get hotter, I got to call somebody. But now, I have a specialty in my education, in my education that I do.
Yeah,
But I looked at this thing and I was just like, oh my gosh, that is just one of the coolest things I've ever seen. And
thank you.
it's got to be. Um, so think of this. Like, can you imagine being a rock star and sitting, somewhere in a park and writing some lyrics, and then 10 years later, there's 150,000 people singing your song that came out of your imagination. You're kind of a rock star of ergonomic technology because this came out of your mind and it's just amazing. It really
Thank you
is.
so much. That's very humbling for me. And when I talk about the education, I have 4 daughters. I certainly hope that, that's the track that they're going on, is getting educated. But for me, um, I guess the point of me saying all of that is not for any reason of, I didn't get education, is that I never looked at it as less than that I was taking the track, but I still had great expectations for my life.
Mhm.
And I think as time goes on in the industries and in the trades, we get beat down. Um, Physically, you will get beat down, and that's what happened to me.
I feel like those qualifications that you have, have gotten watered down over the generations. Like
Yeah.
my dad, for example.
Yeah.
You know what? My dad can do anything. I mean, can fix stuff, can do all types of stuff. And then, you look at, and I hate to, I'm not, stereotyping, but you look at some of these
Sure.
19 to 25-year-olds. I mean, you put them in a room with a rotary phone and directions written in cursive, and they couldn't call 911.
Sure.
So it's a challenge. Bo,
Sure.
I've really enjoyed our time together. If you want to kind of just go over quickly where the audience can view the backup, and then talk a
Sure.
little bit about what social media presence you have, if any.
Sure.
LinkedIn, that kind of stuff, and then we'll finish up. I'll talk with you just quickly about your charity choice, and then we'll get finished up. So, where can people check out the backup again? And then if they want to connect with you on social media, how can they go about doing that?
Sure. They can go to our website, and it's a little bit of a long website, but it's evolutionarytoolsinc.com. Can also get there by going to backupsafetytool.com. Um, with as busy as I am, still being out in the field for a couple days a week, still building, and yet my shows and everything else that I have on demand, I focus on LinkedIn. I
Okay.
find the greatest relationship building opportunities in LinkedIn. And so you can find me on LinkedIn at Beau Sitzmann, Beau Sitzmann, Sitzmann. And I'm constantly updating the stories, users, trials, current trials that are going on with different companies that we have right now, like with the Navy and some other large companies and organizations. So,
Awesome. Well, I know that our CVO Steve Davis is a huge fan of you and your vision and of the backup. And after spending some time with you, I certainly see why. So,
oh, thank you.
tell us a little bit about your charity choice, if you want to. We always like to give folks a platform to talk about that quickly.
Sure. I St. Jude Children's Hospital. I have four daughters, and we've just been fortunate that they've all been healthy. And so, but the thing about St. Jude is, you're never presented with a bill there, and luckily we've never had to go there, and I think I'd like to keep it that way, and so that's the charity that we don't give a lot of money to, but we kind of pay it forward once in a while, and we do go with St. Jude.
Bo, I appreciate your vision. I appreciate your time, and the sky's the limit for you, man. Just keep on after it. Okay.
Thank you so much.
All
Thank
right.
you for your time today.
Sure. I hope you'll come back and tell us, maybe next year or something, later in the year. Tell us what's going on. Love to hear what's happening with the backup. Folks, that'll wrap up this edition of Atomic Ergo. As always, if you have any questions, concerns, comments, please leave those down below. I would also, this time, I'm going to do my best to see if we can get the production team to put the links to the backup and to your LinkedIn, Bo.
Thank you.
You have got to check this dude out. You've got to check out the backup. It's really something, folks. You're going to be taken aback by it. So, with that being said, I want to remind you, go out and be good to each other. This is Earl Ray Neal, and I will see you next time.